GenAI is everywhere. You are here because you are in the financial service industry or you're interested in their development with this technology. And I thank you for joining our session on how to deliver business value in the financial services industry with GenAI. My name is Andrea Weyrich, and I work as a Senior Manager, Solution Architecture for Global Financial Services. And I'm happy to have two leaders in machine learning and AI with me on stage to tell their story, how they are getting this done in a regulated industry. What's great around the Berlin Summit is that we get together and share our stories and our knowledge and how we approach the new technologies. GenAI has captured the imagination of everyone. And this does not only apply to folks that are deep into IT, but it also applies to boards of directors. And the reason is they see the ability that this is going to change their industry. And no one wants to be left behind. Let me tell you a little story of a friend of mine. A friend of mine is the CEO of a shared services organization in the financial services industry, running in a large global insurer. And she has a practice, a regular practice, to go and work alongside employees on specific cases. So one day she was working with a claims handler who had to reply to a customer that their health condition was unfortunately not covered by the insurance. So they sat together, designed a letter that was much more empathetic and also included a couple of resources to help with the situation. So you can be sure that this leader will make sure that empathy scales around every customer contact in the organization that she is responsible for. With GenAI, we've reached a tipping point. With the proliferation of data, structured, unstructured data, combined with the enormous computing power in the cloud, and then the machine learning innovations around, all you need is attention, transformer technology. We cannot uninvent it. It's here to stay. In the financial services industry, we see basically three categories of business value. One is knowledge worker efficiency, the second one is product innovations, and the third one that I already mentioned is much better customer experiences. Let me introduce our speakers. We have here Sebastian Kaiser, Head of Machine Learning at Ergo Group, and later Alexander Haag, Head of AI Platforms in Ergo. They will share the challenges they faced and how they are mastering it, straddling between experimentation and regulation. Yeah. Sebastian, thank you for coming and joining us.
Thanks. Yeah, and for sure we all do this on AWS stack, right? This is why we are here on that side. But I will talk more about the strategy behind all that, what we do in Ergo. But before that, for sure, as usual, I need to introduce the company. I hope most of you know Ergo, primary insurer of the Munich Re Group, right? We say we act worldwide. We don't, because in America, we have American Modern, other primary insurers in the Munich Re Group. But for rest of the world, right, Asia, everywhere, there's Ergo, multiple countries, but for sure, our home market, Germany, and that's why we love that you all come to Germany for these sessions always. We have different insurers. We have full stack insurer, that means health insurance. We have property and casualty insurance, and for sure, life insurance on that side, travel insurance, and this is important for later, we have Nexible, which is our digital player, pure digital insurer, very small, where we can try out a lot of things. And for example, we try out a customer chatbot with GenAI, which I talk in a few minutes about that. Good. Basically, the insurance value chain a little bit different than other value chains look like, right? You all know how sales agent, brokers and everything works, I hope, because you buy your insurer with your agent and anything, hopefully an Ergo agent if you are in Germany on that side. But there's the sales part, and then there's underwriting, risk selection, all that stuff. And we try to do analytics all around that value chain. This is it's a quite hard task, very risk-averse system, very slow-moving. So we are like normally insurance is a third follower, right? This is where the technique goes, and we try to change that now with the generative AI approach. This is now something when everybody is talking about the tipping point, the product of an insurance is a piece of paper, right? And when LLMs can do something really right, then read from a piece of paper, right? This is what the main core of this revolution takes part, and this is the Ergo main product, a piece of paper, a contract. And everything is around that. If you have a claim, everything else is done by, if you have a car accident or something, this is done by the garage or anything like that. We only get a piece of paper and we pay. So everything on paper, everything on documents, and documents is something where you really can do a big boost with generative AI. For sure, we are in that lucky situation, as hopefully everybody of you, that we already invested into AI advanced analytics since 2017, having the skills now on board, having with AWS the technology on board. Our AI factory, where Alex will speak later a little bit about that, is based on AWS and hosts all our models on that side. And we do an agile approach because of this fast changing environment everywhere, so that it helps that we do not do as we usually did in insurance, plan 3 years and then do this 5 years and then finished, right? Good. We are not the only one recognized that, right? Boston Consulting, very nice study telling, look now in insurance, there's the potential. Way too much to go through that slide, but if you're interested, talk to Boston Consulting or to us. We really have very, very much potential here in all of the use cases, because the insurance business is really people sitting there reading documents. This is what people are doing. And that's why in all of the parts of our value chain, we have a lot of potential from 20% to 50%. And we think, and we really went through that, we think that this potential is there to realize over the next 2-3 years already. This is the part. So how are we acting on that? What we have, we tried to be very, very early now. So this is, for the people not in insurance, this is really different, but this time we try to be first mover. This is not normal in the insurance space. Normally, first follower, second follower, third follower. We really try to push that in a way. And how we are doing that is by 5 different approaches on that, what we call the house of generative AI in Ergo. So first of all, we need to make these external services available for the people inside Ergo. I will talk about that a little bit more in the next minutes, but external tools. Normally, if you go through a risk-averse industry like insurance, to get a tool into Ergo, it takes a year in order to get anything, right? And then you are not allowed to use it fully, only part of it. This time we tried a completely different approach, opening up when OpenAI, 1 month later, OpenAI was available for the people. For sure, not with confidential or internal data, only public data, but the URL was not cut it or anything, people could use that. Second part is having an internal enablement, having something which people can use on their internal and confidential data. What we all know, at least if you look into generative AI, is the knowledge assistance, right? All these big RAG systems where you have all the information in parts of documents which are lying in the database and retrieving data from that. We want to have customer-facing stuff on that. And what people always forget in that direction, right? If you are into machine learning a little bit, when you look into what people did in the machine learning space, especially with intelligent document processing or anything, all these extraction parts, right, where you build a lot of models, technical detail, the BERT models in that case were really just retrieving the date or anything like that. this is now really possible with the large language model. So focused applications, do not forget about them. Keep in mind they might be expensive. If you use a Claude 3 model or other models on that side, it's expensive to load the full document into that. So there are still smaller machine learning models in place, but there's a lot of use cases which you can do on that. Talking about use cases on that side is what we did is collecting use cases. For the first time, there was a pull effect of AI, a push effect of AI use cases in the company, right? People were talking about GenAI because it was all everywhere, press releases and everything. So we asked just the people, now that you heard in the press or anything what GenAI can do, please come to us and tell us your use case. We collected 50 use cases from the people going through the full circle of really doing a feasibility thing on that, looking into, does it really has the potential what we want to do? How fast can we do that? Do we have the technology? Is there a security to do that? We've gone through all that use cases, and still the use cases are coming. We did that, I think, 1 year and 2 months ago or something like that. In April last year, we started that, and we still get use cases, right? We still get use cases where people now find, look, that this we could do. From the beginning, exactly 1 year ago, we started with, let's do 3 kinds of use cases in order to prove that there is value. The first thing, doing an own Ergo GPT. I hope all of your companies did that already, because this is really something where people then experience and work with that even on the working space. If you remember the old times, right, where transformation came up, computers were there first at work. So people experiments at work with the computers and then brought it home to the personal PC or anything like that. We try to do that again with generative AI. The workers should have more experience at work than they do at home with the stuff, because it is something which helps them on their work. Second thing is the customer should hopefully profit from that. So we try the customer chatbot with that. And what's especially important in insurance, if you look into all the analysts, what they are doing, right? They have their working guidelines, and they need to do claims processing or address changes or anything like working guidelines. And you cannot train all the working guidelines on all your analysts. So it would be great if they just ask, how do I treat nose operations in health claims? And then they see what they are allowed to pay. No cosmetic operations, only claims-inducted operations. For sure, first of all, we started with Azure OpenAI. I think most of us did that on the side. If you want to present an internal GenAI availability, a large language model to all of your people, and we have 35,000 people in the world, and tomorrow, all of them will have access to Ergo GPT. It's only 32,000 because we do that in waves in order to test if the infrastructure is holding that. But for sure, at the moment, we do that with Azure OpenAI because it's the easiest way. And that. Just presenting that, what the target architecture, and put it in that. But we have more plans for that, right? Having people available. You need to have a competence center. The people always, what they do first is, you present them the Ergo GPT, and the first thing they ask is, what is Markus Ries, this is our CEO, doing? And then we have people from Allianz here, and then the first stuff which comes up is that he is doing claims management for Allianz. Because this is from the old data where he was and everything, and the people complain, oh, this is not real data, this is wrong, and everything. So you need to form the competences that they understand what to do, right? What you also need to do is teach them on prompts, so that they understand what can I do with the prompting itself. Is there something where I really need a use case for doing all fine-tuning, technical stuff or anything around that? What can I do with the prompt itself? And what helps easily is just presenting examples on that. You should do trainings, right? There should be training sessions on using that, in what circumstances they can use that, and all that stuff. And Ergo is international, so it makes sense to really exchange internationally on that. There are different ways of treating that in different countries, and this is also what we do. This is what we do for the internal stuff. We can do confidential data in there, which is quite nice, right? So it went all through the security checks, so we can work really with the insurance documents on that. But if you go to the more, like the treasure of what we have, so our working guidelines of how we pay, how we price insurance or anything, you need more, and you need to have all of this in a knowledge base or something like that. So we tried to do that very early, a year ago already with the RAG system. Everybody now knows, hopefully now, what the RAG system is, to put the documents in there. And we started very early in seeing how can we do that. And this is where AWS really helps, what they do on the Bedrock stuff. Bedrock was not there at that time, so we used all the models through Jumpstart on that side. And there we could see that if you put all your data cleaned, runs it into a nice database, OpenSearch, for example, AWS OpenSearch, put it in there, and then you have already a vector database. And that was already there. So put the documents in there, and then you can really nice retrieve from that. Data is very important, right? It is the thing. If you do not have your data clean, the large language model does not help you. So you need to have your data under control. Sure, then you need to do the user testing. At the beginning, we had the small models in our AWS stack, right? We had the Llama 2 model at that time, and it was not really perfect in German, so people were like complaining a little bit. But now with the evolution, Llama 3, and then also having in the future Claude 3 ready on that side, this gives a lot of boost for the answers, the structure of the answers. But the information in the answer, you need that vector database. If this, and also the search stuff around that. If you do not have that, then it will not give you the right information on that. And for sure, you need to operate that. And most of our stack is still on premise, so we are lucky that we have this AI factory on the side where we can operate that. And for sure, and this is already, again, half a year old and everything, the user interface, we built it all by ourselves, right? We did a Streamlit app for technical details, just running that in our AWS cloud, providing all that infrastructure together in order to be able to really ask questions against our working guidelines. Worked out quite nicely, and hopefully we will continue that for all the working guidelines we have out there on the site. Okay. The most important project for me, at least, was, is that really something we can present to customers already on that side? We had on all our website, you know that there's this chatbot popping up or anything. Are we confident enough in order to push that in front of our customers already? And we did that using our pure digital player, Nexible, and just showing, look, now we give you all the information on the website. Please answer from all that information on the website, and that should be fine because the normal chatbot also has only this information. This was all public information, so no problem to present that to the public. And this is how we did that. We did everything as PDF files from the website, putting that into a vector database store and allowing customers, in that case for sure trying out, first 500 customers, giving them doing A/B testing, I come to that, and giving them the information. What was important for us was build it in a way that the document where the LLM is referring to, that it's available as a source on that, so that the people can click on that, and we always make sure, and everything, doing remarks and everything, only look at what it is in the document. This is valid. What the LLM tells you, it's a summary or anything, but valid is only what you can read in the documents. For sure, we made a lot of hallucinations, right? We had 17% hallucinations at the beginning, which we thought were hallucinations. Turned out in the end was only 4% hallucination. Rest of the stuff was, and we need to be honest here, was the data we were not cleaned up, right? Because on our website there were a lot of old material, and for sure the LLM also found the old material and then answered from the old material on that side. So again, make your data clean, right? This is the thing. I don't know if I'm allowed to say shit in, shit out on that stage, but yeah. This will still be the same even with LLMs on that side. So what we did, really put that customer facing into it, looking 14 days, 7 days, 500 customers with the AI chatbot, GenAI chatbot, 500 with the old chatbot, And then we came up with the number saying, was that right? Did you feel well? How was your impression or anything? And then, yeah, I'm a statistician by heart, right? And I'm not quite happy with the statistics because it says, look, it's 46% saying it was positive and 36 saying that the old chatbot was positive. You have to add around 30% neutral people to that because the normal answer to a chatbot on a website is neutral, right? People do not, they say it's okay, right? Not positive, but it's okay on that. So we were quite happy bringing that into production now so that people really can implement on that. But before that, we have to curate the data in order to make everything safe. So why is this happening? And this is the very lucky part of that. And I was a little bit fast, so I tell you a little bit more about the general digital structure on what we are doing. The data treasure is everything we have. If you, and most of the people in financial industry normally do not save all this data which you have. Keep in mind that all the documents, and this is a document business, you need to have the data treasure, right? Without that, and without having a history also on that, you will not be able to really make a great GenAI experience. If you want to integrate into your systems later, you need this data. And that means that the data over the full value chain, when anybody sends you an email on that, if there's any contract coming in on that, be sure that you are able to retrieve that in a machine learning way, right? In a machine readable way. It is very important that the information which a human sees on that paper also is transferred to machine. We all know that GenAI now says, oh, we are multimodal, we can read from pictures or anything. If you look deeply into what they are doing, it's a simple OCR, and they're using Google. Normally, if you work with ChatGPT, for example, they are using Tesseract on that. Don't do that. Use the hyperscale approach. Use an OCR system. If you do not have a machine-readable document, use an OCR system like AWS TextRect because there are 20% higher accuracy on the character recognition on that. And this is very important because this is the information which comes into your LLM in the end. Do that. Also, make sure that in the future digital initiatives are there. If you still get the contracts by postmail, what we get a lot, right? Then you have to scan it and all that stuff. So you need to digitize all that stuff. So we have the data treasure. We have luckily our Ergo AI factory. And from now on, we are also using the completely GenAI approach, which helps us a lot on the technical side. And then you need the people inside your company to be ready for this digital transformation, right? Insurance, we know most of your companies might be ready for the digital transformation. In insurance, we still have a concept house post, right? So we are sending documents which are signed on paper throughout our company on that. This is not digital ready. So make a digital culture, make as much as possible machine readable, which is nearly digital on that side, make it machine readable, and then hopefully get it digital in order to have the company success. For us, a crucial role in that digital stuff plays the Ergo AI factory. And the good thing is that we have a head of AI platforms, Alexander, who is building that, and we from the machine learning team are very happy to have this AI factory to do our models there.
Thanks, Sebastian. And let's see if I can make use of those few minutes that you left over, right? So you heard a lot about that the AI factory can help. And I'd like to elaborate a little bit about how it can help, right? And how it plays a vital role in it's one of the fundamental things on how we actually implement and realize business benefits on normal AI stuff and on the future Gen AI stuff. So coming back to that picture, right? I won't go through all the details, obviously, again, but the major thing to understand is that those different types of Gen AI use cases oftentimes have different requirements, right? They have different users, but they also have different technical requirements, which means that there cannot be one single solution that rules them all, basically, but there can be one concept that simplifies and leverages the technology and then actually make sure that it's realized in an efficient way. And this is basically what the AI Factory is about. So first things first, quite briefly, the idea is to have Ergo's AI Factory to not only have model results on PowerPoint, right, but to actually bring them into production and actually leverage and get value out of those technologies. And to do that, one major thing is standardization, right? Standardization is the major thing to get things clean, fast, and to be able to focus on the actual development of the applications, or of the GenAI applications and AI applications. So in the end, the AI Factory is, in our regulated industry, the key to bring AI use cases to life. Simple as that. And when I say standardization, there's two things that might sound boring in the first place. One of them is governance, right? The other one is a bit more interesting, I guess. But governance is key, right? And even if governance is a boring thing in the first place, if you don't get it right and don't standardize on how to deal with the governance stuff, then you will be spending more time for each individual use case and each individual application on that governance stuff. So that's also not really fun, right? So get it right in the first place. And the major drivers, the major things to consider when it comes to governance is IT security, data privacy, authentication and roles, and the business processes, right? So the thing with IT security is that, especially when moving to the cloud, and we don't have to have that conversation if the cloud is more secure than on-prem or not. That's not the point here. But anyways, and in both cases, right, you have to care about IT security, and especially in this fast-moving world of AI and now GenAI, right? If you're adding a new component to your system, to our platform, then this has to run through the security, or this has to, let's say, be backed up by a security concept, get the sign-off and the approval of the global IT security officer at Ergo. That also makes it easier to convince subsidiaries, for example, right? Because if the global ISO has their approval, then why not, right? And you don't have to discuss this over and over again, just because you're having different types of implementations over and over again, and if you're doing it the same way, right? So that's IT security. The thing about data privacy, it very much affects also the authentication and role concepts that we put into the platform. The thing with data privacy is that, given the fact that we're in Germany or in Europe, mainly at least, the thing of GDPR is a given, right? So it's not to be discussed if we want to do things a certain way, but we have to do things a certain way. So if we can approach every use case in a similar way, right, and describe it in a similar way, work on it in a similar way, then it's way easier to negotiate with a data privacy officer, for example, whether or not it's fine to go that route. It's fine to do that use case. And our major component, right, that we take is a so-called project description. It's easy as that, right? You describe what you want to do with what type of data and who's allowed to work on it, over and over again for each individual use case. And coming to the top part, right, that's the role concept and authentication. That is the representation of that in a technical form, right? So on the AI Factory, it is very explicitly technically solved, that only the data scientist or data engineer who's working on that specific use case is allowed to see that data. He cannot mix up data of different use cases, or even worse, data of different subsidiaries and companies, right? So this together is the data privacy and authentication part, that is also solved in a standardized way. It's the same principle, which saves a lot of time. And the next thing is, and that is also very much influenced by the regulation, right, by the BaFin and the VAT regulation and definitions, is to use standard processes that are already there. Use the standard IT process that Ergo provides. In our case, we call this an Essence process. This is our IT process framework. And find a way, or let's say we found a way, on how to use it for our purposes. This was new in the beginning, but now we can repeat and reuse this approach for the different use cases that we have. Moving on to a bit more of an more interesting, more technical focused thing that is not governance, but it's MLOps. It's the process around developing machine learning, deploying machine learning. You know that, right? You know that, or it is some sort of that circle. This is not at all new, that's clear. But when we talk about more complex GenAI use cases especially, like Sebastian mentioned in the first place, this pillow to the very right side, right, where you have to build applications. The thing is that the whole MLOps approach changes to a certain extent. So if we now define, and you can have a different definition, but this is ours, the whole end-to-end process as MLOps, right? You have to ask what changes if you introduce or if you change it to LLMOps, right? And there's two major areas that are different, which is the model training and data preparation part, and it's the deployment and operations. And I'll get to the why. So there's a big difference. There's one major difference from a technical perspective or from a platform perspective when we distinguish between classical machine learning and LLMs. Classical machine learning is usually a model or an endpoint, maybe with a little bit of API, and that's it. For GenAI, especially for complex GenAI solutions, you are developing an application. It's more than a model. So when you start with the model and model building and the data preparation part, you're using the same tools, right? You're using the same tools. As you can see, it's EMR, it's SageMaker, and DataZone to have that data foundation, that data management layer. But you're doing different things. You're not training a model, you're maybe fine-tuning a model. You're creating data assets to put in your RAG architecture. But you're using the same tools. The discipline for the data scientist changes. Okay, so far so good. When it comes to the ops part, when it comes to if you're creating a model or if you're creating an application, things start to get different. With the classic machine learning approach, you have a model, you have an endpoint, somebody has to deploy that, build an API around that, good. I mean, hard enough, but good. With an LLM application, like Sebastian mentioned before, you have to build way more, right? In our case, on the data engineering and data scientist side, so not on the IT side. You want to develop a front end. You want to choose between different managed or not so managed LLM services. You want to combine them, bring some logic in there, create your RAG architecture, fill your vector database, connect all of that, glue it together, and have one application. Way more tools, right? But this still has to scale. So in contrast to the IT ops side, where with a machine learning, traditional machine learning approach, they take let's say, now when I say they take, I mean our IT department takes a model, builds an API, and is done with it. In the other case, they have to deploy the whole application, which is far more complex in the first place, because somebody has to create that application. But you save a lot of time when this whole application gets deployed and not reworked and not refactored, because this will basically, create a mess. And that's the major difference. The big question now is how to do that, right? And while we first had, or let's say for the traditional machine learning stuff, it was basically enough to give us a few tools, mainly SageMaker, and something to handle big data, which is EMR, and we were basically happy. Not everybody was happy, but basically happy, right? And now you have to give a certain freedom to the developer that might not be intuitive for your typical IT department, at least not for us. And to overcome this, we think that a platform engineering approach, and I know there's different definitions of a platform engineering approach out there, but that a platform engineering approach is the way to go. Meaning that the IT department, or let's say your platform provider, your platform engineering team, provides you all the foundations, right? Like FinOps and CI/CD and your workflows and whatever else is on the slide. But you get the freedom, and by you I mean the developer, the data engineer, the AI engineer, whatever role you have, get the freedom to have an internal developer platform. We call that a user code environment, a concept where the AI developer can deploy various services multiple times, arrange them like they want, and build their application. Put it in Terraform just to have it, let's say, safe and redeployable. Have automation, like a CI/CD-based automation on that, taking way more responsibility than before in order to stage the whole application to prod. This is, of course, not trivial, and again, it's building up. It's more like a you build it, you run it type of situation, which is kind of what I learned from AWS. On the other hand side, having in mind that we're a regulated industry, right, there has to be something, or there has to be a major, the major component of operations has to be in the hand of an IT, right? This is something that for an insurance is just a must. Anyways, you can deploy this whole application, and you have your IT and ops responsibility for the IT department. So this is what we're currently working on. This is what we do in parallel to a lot of the POCs and POVs in terms of proof of values that Sebastian mentioned. And as you can imagine, there is quite a lot of potential and need for AWS experts. And with that being said, handing over to Andrea again.
So what did you learn? There is lots of exciting opportunity in the financial service industry, especially in insurance. So we're moving forward into a place where you can really do something new and exciting. And you can be, I also know that they have jobs available, so go and train and use our offerings to speed up your AWS knowledge. There is lots of free, over 600 free courses available. If you're part of Skills Builder in your organization, go and learn, keep up to date. Technology makes innovation possible, but it's people that actually make it happen. I would like to thank you very much for joining our session, and I wish you a further inspiring Berlin Summit. Thank you very much.